Back to another episode of Make It Happen Outdoors podcast. Kent and I had a little hiatus in the last 6 months. No thanks to a number of things. One of them being, that we all know we're going through right now is this, stupid COVID nonsense. Sorry, and then, Kent, you had your work stuff going on. I had my work stuff going on. We had hunts. You were moving. We had a plethora of things just keep us from really getting down in and getting some consistency with the podcast. So we felt rather than be so inconsistent, we'd just take a break.
And then now it's time to get back at it, and it feels really good to be back in the saddle.
No doubt, and we got a great one for you today too. So before we get that rolling, let's go into a couple of our helpers on this podcast. Number one is Pet Club 247. Excuse me, I had to burp there. And I didn't want to do it in the microphone. So, everybody out there who's got a pet, horses, dogs, cats, you need to get on Pet Club 247. Get on allaboutpets.petclub247.com or petpros.petclub247.com. The nutritional treats, chews, toys, and the not only just great stuff for your pet, but actual things that are scientifically proven to help immune systems. The Coriolis versicolor, they have those for horses. The stories that are coming out of these things are fantastic. The foods are top-notch, very reasonable priced for the best foods on the market. And so you got to get on those two websites and get your pet and your animals healthy.
Yeah, and it pays. And get yourself educated. I mean, there's information on there. There's videos. Get on there, take a look. It doesn't take long to realize that we haven't been treating our pets as well as we should have been over this last 40, 50 years or whatever. And it's time we start treating them like the loved ones that they are.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, if you can get a couple more years out of your dog, your cat, horse's life, whatever, you got to do it. I mean, for an extra, to give them the good foods, and it's not that expensive to do that. It's they're your family member. You don't really realize what's going on with what you're feeding them until you really do some research. There's a few things out there that we've talked about before. Pet Fooled is a documentary that you need to jump on and look at. It's on Amazon. I believe you can find it on YouTube. It's eye-opening to you're slowly just the mass-produced nonsense that you go down to your local grocery store and buy is just slowly killing your pet. It's like you eating McDonald's every day. And,
exactly.
And y'all have seen that McDonald's documentary. What's that one called again?
Super Size Me, I think.
Yep, Super Size Me. And that the nonsense that goes on, and you're just slowly doing that to your pet when you don't really pay attention to what you're feeding them. So, A, get educated. 2, get on allaboutpets.petclub247.com or petpros.petclub247.com. Check out all the things that you need to get yourself educated. For one last thing to go look at, we can direct you to learn a little bit more about the Coriolis versicolor mushroom, is go to mushroomstudies.co. It talks all about all the independent studies that have been done on that Coriolis versicolor mushroom and how powerful it is for you and your immune system as well as your pets and animals. So there's one. Kent, want to do second one?
Next, it's definitely the time of year to talk about Native by Carlton. And all the game calls that they have, but especially in our case right now, this time of year, we're just coming off some of our elk hunts, but the elk hunts around the west are still in full swing, and you can't beat Native by Carlton. You can't beat the calls, and you can't beat the company, and you can't beat the people that started and run the company.
And no doubt about it. We love those calls. We use them every year, and we're on a roll now. The last 4 or 5 years since we've been using his calls as Native by Carlton calls with that company. We've got ourselves a bull every year.
Yeah, and heck, we spent a week in New Mexico, and we called in 7 bulls between 60 and 80 yards and closer. But
we had bulls at 20. We had bulls at, but I was being very selective. I wanted something different, so I didn't. Yeah, but the calls did their job, and
definite testament to the calls. They're easy to use, and I know that there's some calls out there that folks use that they're just not easy to use when it comes time to count. Everybody's good when they're singing in the shower, right? So everybody can be home and be good, but it's when that call needs to perform when that call needs to perform in the heat of the moment. So, and that's one thing I love about the Carlton calls, just the design, the tape, everything about them is you put them in your mouth, you can use them right away. They're not stiff. They're perfect that way. And so you can count on them when the heat is on. That's for sure.
No doubt. So get on nativebycarlton.com, get on Native by Carlton on Instagram, and go support that great family-owned small business company that is just doing great things with their calls. So last but not least, let's give a shout-out one more time, and we'll continue to do this, to Mountain Archery Fest. The season is obviously over for the competition shoots that Mountain Archery Fest puts on. They're looking to expand tremendously next season. Stay tuned for what they're doing. Get on mountainarcheryfest.com or follow them on Instagram as well, and you'll see exactly what's going on with Brandon Waddell and that whole group that are really doing well with that. I just can't say enough about those.
Yeah, and the shoots that they put on, I should not even a shoot. It's the event that they put on, the weekend that they put on for those weekends is will quickly become the best shoot in the West to go to.
Yeah, so. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's a whole different atmosphere. It's a family. It's everything. So Good stuff with those guys. So get on mountainarcheryfest.com. Keep following them on Instagram, and stay tuned for what 2021 is going to bring for everything that they have planned. And as they give us information and announce things, we'll be promoting, because it's something y'all got to do.
Exactly.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's just jump right into Lydia Smith and the podcast. What do you say?
Yeah, let's jump on with Lydia. We could spend all night talking about what an amazing individual Lydia is, and what she's done in the amount of time that she's been around is truly incredible. But it shows the amount of drive and determination and commitment that she has to everything she does. So without giving too much away and without going on all night long, let's just go ahead and listen to the podcast.
Yep, let's do it. So without further ado, here's Lydia Smith. Let's go ahead and get started. Lydia, welcome to the Make It Happen Outdoors podcast.
Thank you.
No problem. We have a great guest today, another guest that is well on our way to becoming one of the outdoors and hunting forces to be reckoned with. I know you're relatively new at hunting. We have Miss Lydia Smith with us. Welcome, Lydia.
Thank you, guys.
No problem. How are you? And let's just get rolling with where you're from, who you are, what makes you who you are. Go ahead and just start talking, and then we'll just let it go wherever it goes.
Perfect. So, I'm Idaho born and raised. I got into hunting, like you said, pretty recently. I've been hunting for the past 5 years. I grew up in a non-hunting family, but always had a passion for it, and finally got started in it back in, I think, 2017, and I haven't gone back since. So it's been really, really cool to see where I've gone in that time frame. Hunting is definitely just becoming more and more a big part of my life. So something I'm incredibly passionate about.
So what part of Idaho are you from?
Southeast Idaho. So I grew up in Idaho Falls. And I'm currently living about 20 miles outside of it now in Rigby.
Okay.
Cute little town. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Good. I'm pretty familiar with Southeast Idaho. I got some property down outside of Preston. So.
Oh, perfect. That's a pretty place.
It is pretty. I love it up there. I got to get up there before too much snow hits. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's probably going to come pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm getting scared. I got a 24-foot trailer that I got to get out of the mountain. I might got to get it out before the snow hits, because the road getting in there is kind of ugly. So.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I'm praying for good weather for another week and a half.
Well, you should pray for bad weather then for a couple of weeks, and then good weather again while we're in the central part of Nevada trying to get a deer.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe we can get the timing right. We'll be good to go.
Yeah. So you've a handful of things there. Let's see if we can't dive into a little bit. You're from Southeast Idaho. You're not from a hunting family. What was it that got you headed in the hunting direction?
So there was a lot lot of like little things that played into me getting really interested in it. And one of them was when I was really little, we had a next door neighbor, and me and my brother would often go over to his house, play with his dogs. And I was always really interested in his like arrowhead collection he had and the antler mounts he had in his place. And I always asked him about hunting. And I also always had a really big, I guess like I'm very inspired by the Native American way of life. Back then, how everything was, self-done. They're very self-efficient people. They have a huge amount of respect for the animals they hunt and all of that stuff. And I just thought that was so incredible. So I've always been really inspired by that culture. And then my neighbor, he was also part Native American. And so that was really cool. And then probably when I was about 10 or 11, my dad had a fishing game guy that was working for him. And he would always talk to me about hunting and always told me I should get into it. And I definitely agreed. And I actually begged my dad and my neighbor to take me hunting for the next 5 years because he never took me. So I eventually got my hunter's ed done. I saved up my money and did the online course. And then once I got my license, I went and borrowed my uncle's gun and went out for the first time. But yeah, my biggest inspiration that I guess brought me into hunting was definitely that culture of Native Americans and some of the people that hunted as well when I was little and I saw that. So
what did you got a rifle, obviously. What did you shoot?
I shot a doe.
Okay, and what kind of gun were you shooting?
I think it was, I want to say it was a, man, it was so long ago.
Like a 30-06 or a 273 or something like that? Or 270,
I'm pretty sure it was a 6.5.
Okay.
Oh, man, I can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
No problem.
That was a while ago.
Because now I see you run around the hills with your bow. So
Yes.
when did that transition happen?
So I always wanted to archery hunt, but I never had the equipment when I first started, so I just started with what I had. But I've always loved archery. And I think it was the year after is when I got my first bow. And then I did my first archery elk hunt, and that was a game changer. Just completely became my most favorite thing in the world. Even though it was an awful season filled with bad weather and hiking my butt off, but it was amazing. Just being able to hear the elk and get so close to him, such an incredible experience,
isn't it?
Oh, it's so amazing. Even to this day, I can't get over it. So
I think that animal all by itself changes the world for people who do it for the first time.
Oh, for sure. And growing up, I actually, my family and my extended family all share a big cabin up by West Yellowstone. And so I grew up seeing elk, and they were always probably my favorite wild game animal.
Yeah.
Yep. They were so beautiful. I love them.
So did you tag one your first year?
No, it took me 4 years to tag my first elk.
Is that all?
I was going to say, right?
Yeah. Yep, it took me 4 years, and I think 4 seasons, or maybe 4 seasons, and I finally got my first elk, and that was pretty incredible. I had a lot of close calls that season, and I ended up punching my tag on a nice little 5-point, 20 yards and a frontal shot. It was a perfect shot. He went 50 yards and dumped over, and
Nice.
that was pretty awesome to me.
And then the fun begins.
Cool.
And then the fun begins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was last year, so.
Right.
Were you solo on that hunt too?
What was that?
Were you solo on that hunt too?
I was for a lot of the season, but my friend had actually came and helped me that day before. He came and showed up the day before and was with me when I killed my bull.
Oh, well, that makes it a little bit easier. I think
Yes.
even a 5-point bull solo, that's a lot of
Oh
work.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was really, really rough. We deboned them and made one trip, and I about killed myself. I was packing a lot of weight. We both were.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were way up there and it was thick, and we did not want to go back up after packing them out. So it definitely sucked, but it was 100% worth it. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, those are the kind of things that make you go back is you know, the adrenaline that goes, and then when you're all done and finally I know I do, I forget the pain. It's all
yes.
You're up there with people and friends, and making that happen is all well worth it. And year after year, it just gets funner and funner.
It sure does.
Yeah. Well, just as a note, you know, Kent and I have been hunting for probably longer than you've been alive.
Oh, I'm sure.
And every year it's as fun or funner as the previous year.
That's what I love about hunting.
Yep. So you're not going to lose that excitement that you have. That's for sure.
No,
it's a lifelong commitment.
It is. It's a great one, though.
Yeah. So a couple other things about you. You're an artist. Talk to us about how you got into that. What got you started to be an artist? And
so basically, I've been drawing since I was tiny. Basically, since I could hold a pencil, and my mom has a bunch of stories of me being like a little crazy 3-year-old getting into things, and you know, drawing on the couch and cutting it out, and so I didn't get in trouble, you know. So I was always very creative, and finally put that into drawing. And I would say probably when I turned about 15, I really wanted to start taking my art, you know, more professionally, and looked into doing stuff for banquets and whatnot, and really tried to take that off. And it's been going amazing. I've been doing lots of digital artwork now. It's become my full-time job, and it's really incredible.
So are you a freelance?
I'm really blessed.
You freelance at it then?
So basically, what I do is I do fine art, and then I do like lots of t-shirt designs. So most of my people like that commission me, go through my website, or like it's either a private commission or whatever.
And that pays your bills right now. That's your job.
Yes, it does. Yep.
That's awesome. Because you'll be another thing I can tell you're probably very passionate about.
Yes. There's about 3 things I'm extremely passionate about, and that's the hunting and the outdoors, my art, and then horses. So
and
that's 3 perfect things to be passionate about. Right. I have to say, I was perusing through your website, looking at your gallery, and every picture is amazing. I don't want to discount that, but there is one. The deer that's called A Typical Portrait of that velvet buck. Yeah. Holy cow, that touched my heart in a big time hurry. So
you should.
That's a beautiful picture.
Yeah, while we're talking about her art, everybody who's listening, they need to go to lydiasmithart.com. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, go check those out while we're talking here and you're listening to this podcast. It's she's got some amazing pictures on there, no doubt about it.
Thank you.
No doubt about it. So we've got a lot of little things to talk about. Let's go down the horse route. I did read something that you did it yourself. You trained a wild Mustang.
I did. So that was in 2017 too, I think.
Okay. So how do you go about deciding to do that? You tame and train it yourself.
So I've always thought it would be such a cool experience, and I grew up around horses. Like, my family didn't have them, but my aunt did, and I took any chance I could to go and ride. I grew up riding bareback and, in the big pastures, and so I always wanted my own horse, and I eventually got one when I was 14, but we never really got along very well, and I've always heard about this thing called the Extreme Mustang Makeover, and I thought it'd be such a cool experience to take a horse who previously had no human contact besides being, put into a squeeze chute and like branded and whatnot. But so I told my mom about it, I think when I was 17. And so that must have been 2015 then. I can't remember. I'm so bad with numbers. Anyways, so my aunt had a round pen. We had everything we needed, and I put in my application and I got accepted. Wow. And I went and I picked up my Mustang in April, and I had 3 months to train him before the competition. And so I had him for about 90 days, and he was an amazing horse. We bonded so quickly. It took me, I think, a day or two to get his name tag off, or his number tag, put a halter on him, get to brushing him. Got on his back the first week.
Really? So what method do you use to gain the trust of this wild horse, and how wild was it?
So I definitely took the patience route. I did everything on his time, but he was very willing to learn. So he was extremely skittish, and very unsure of people.
How old was he?
He was a 2-year-old, so he was young.
Okay.
So he was definitely like your wild, typical 2-year-old. And it took me, the first day he was very curious. I guess he just is very curious, period, which helped a lot because he was willing to kind of learn and come check me out. And so when I first got him, the first thing I did was literally just sit at the other side of the round pen and just sit there and let him come up to me if he wanted. If he did, I'd kind of stick my hand out, let him sniff me. If he backed up, no worries. And so I took it very slow, very natural horsemanship style. Once he let me touch him, I just slowly started, touching his face, going down his neck to his shoulders, gained his trust there. Then I eventually got the halter put on him. Actually, never mind, the halter was already on him. They put it on him in the squeeze chute. But I got the lead rope on him, and I started trying to lead him. I think the first day I had him,
Oh,
he was
wow.
definitely he was definitely a little weirded out by that, me pulling on his head, but he learned super quickly. I got extremely lucky with this horse because it's all random. You don't get to pick what horse you have for the competition. And I ended up getting the biggest 2-year-old out of the bunch, and he was super beautiful. And he learned so quickly. He's just a sweet, sweet horse. And so, thank goodness he wasn't aggressive at all, and he was actually pretty easy to learn or train. However, getting him used to saddle blankets was his biggest issue. He did not like them for some reason, and definitely blew up a few times over it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but with time, he eventually accepted it. But for the most part, he was relatively easy to train. Definitely a big learning experience for me, though. I learned so much with him.
Yeah, did you, when you were doing this, I mean, you had some horsemanship skills just growing up around your relatives' horses, but did you consult, did you go on the internet, did you check on what to do, or I mean, what help did you get besides what you already knew?
A lot of it was doing my research, lots of internet videos and whatnot. And a lot of it, I just kind of played by my ear and kind of what I felt was right. And it worked out super good. There's definitely a few things I probably could have done better. But I mean, he was my first horse I'd ever trained, and, I'm learning from him. So, but most of it was, I guess I did have some books that I read, but a lot of it I just kind of played by ear and then my internet research. So
what was this Extreme Mustang Makeover? What organization was it, and give us the rules and what you had to do and what the prize was, I guess, if you were a winner, I guess.
Right. So it's funded by the BLM, and the Wild Mustang Foundation and whatnot. So they started this program to get Mustangs, to get more adopted because they have so many of them.
Right. They need to get them out the range, right?
Yeah. And so they started this program, and I think they did it in 10 states every year. And they finally started one in Idaho. And the show or the competition was in Nampa. So I had to drive a little ways. But you basically get a Mustang, you train them for 3 months. Then you go to the competition, and they have 3 different divisions. They have the handling and conditioning, the trail class, and then the freestyle. And it's usually a span of 2 to 3 days. And then they do a point system. And the prize is usually money and ribbons. So, and then the adult division, all the Mustangs go up for auction afterwards. But the youth division, which I was in, they have the choice whether or not to auction off their Mustangs or keep them.
Right.
So luckily, I was in the youth division, and I got to keep him. There's no way I could have sold that guy. I had tons of people at the competition asking if I was going to auction him. I'm like, no, sorry.
Right.
This guy's mine.
Did you still have him?
Yeah, I do.
Fantastic.
I ended up placing 3rd.
Okay.
Out of the competition. He was being a bit of a goofball during the freestyle and whatnot, but that's just his personality.
Right.
But no, like he's amazing. I love him, and I took him elk hunting with me, I think a year after, once he was big enough to ride. Took him elk hunting solo, and we spent 3 days out in the mountains getting snowed and rained on, and it was great. So,
yeah.
I'd probably take him out too for my deer hunt that's starting in a few days, but he's been awesome. I freaking love him, and he's such a goofy horse, and he has so much personality.
What's his name?
His name's Kilchi, and Kilchi is Red Boy in the Navajo language, because he's a sorrel.
Because it's so
Just named him Kilchi, so yeah.
Very
And he was
good.
out of Nevada too, so we came out of the Nevada. I don't know what herd management area, but
Interesting.
that's the state he came out of.
Wonder if he's one of the ones that Darren was calling while we were hunting in Nevada a couple years ago.
Could have been.
If he's truly goofy like that, those were kind of goofy. I can't believe they came into Darren's calls.
I know, it was funny.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, what are your plans with horses this forward? Just to own one and keep them, or are you going to you find yourself a little horse training business?
I would love to train horses, not full time, but like here and there. I find a lot of joy in it, and I would really like to get myself another Mustang eventually, so I can have 2 horses, one to ride, one to pack with, and so hopefully I can get myself a ground pen here. That's been my biggest issue, is just having the facility to do it.
Right.
But if I had it right now, I think I'd be training horses.
Well, I bet he's a pretty good mountain horse, I would imagine.
Sorry, what was that?
I bet he's a pretty good mountain horse, too.
He is now. He was actually very goofy-footed
Oh,
when I
really?
first got him. Yeah, so weird for a Mustang.
Yeah, you think coming off the range, he'd be a little more sure-footed.
Right? And so, but he's learned, like, he's definitely really, really sure-footed now, but at first he would freaking knock every foot over any log, and I was like, you dumb turd, and he learned, and now he's super good. I love him riding the mountains. He does real good now.
Awesome.
And I did, I don't know if you guys have heard of Gymkhana. It's like relay racing on horseback with a team. And so I did that with him for 2 years, and that was really, really fun.
Really?
That's awesome.
So, how does that work?
So it's teamed event, so it's an event, and they're all timed. And so there's a bunch of different little competitions you do, and you train all summer, and then you have 2 big competitions. You have your districts and your state. And basically throughout the summer, you see what event you're best at, and then you get put in for that, and you just train. And so I'm sure you've seen videos of like the rescue race. That's a pretty like common one, where one person is standing at one end of the arena, and there's somebody on the horse on the other side, and they run down as fast as they can, hop off. The other person hops on and then grabs the person that hopped off, put on their back, and run back. It's kind of confusing,
Yeah.
but
No, I've
it
seen
gets
that.
really dangerous.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's all very fast and timed. And my horse did really good with that. We did a sled race, which is really fun, where one horse pulls 3 different people on a sled. They hop on the sled, run down the arena, go around a barrel, get the other person, do that 3 times. And I was a person that pulled. Kilchi's really good at pulling, so we pulled everybody on the sled, and we did barrels and stuff like that in the event. So it's just kind of a really fun little
That sounds like a great.
rodeo styled.
It's a great
yeah,
time.
it's super fun. It really is. It's just a good time. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Wow. So, one dream of yours is to train horses.
yes.
Yeah, that's a good one, especially with doing this.
If I could have my dream place, I'd have a real big barn and arena and everything, and I'd train horses on the side and then hunt and then do my art on the other time. So
Right. So
yeah.
then, so all you need to do now is sell more art.
I know. A lot of it.
A lot more art. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's go back to the art while we're just chatting about it a little bit. You, when did you start your art business?
So I basically started it probably about the same time I got into hunting. Hunting has really helped increase where my art has gone. I've been able to do a lot of drawings for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation banquets, which have been super, super cool.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my clientele come from the hunting side. So I'd say about like 4 years or so.
And where do you want that to go?
I just want it to go as far as I can.
Do you have an idea? You'd like to have your art in certain places. You'd like to just continue to help people do their own, the animal portraits or animal drawings or any of those kind of things. Or do you have
probably both. I really would love to get my stuff into galleries eventually when I feel like I'm ready for that. I'd love to do both. That'd be really fun to get some of my stuff in Jackson Hole and whatnot. I need to make my portfolio a lot bigger. That's one of my goals right now. And then I'd still love to continue and do private commission stuff and digital artwork.
Right.
And I actually have kind of my own little apparel line that I'm trying to come up with as well, with fun designs on t-shirts and whatnot. So
right. Yeah. So what would it take to get into any of those art galleries that you're talking about? I mean, you say build your portfolio. What is from a just a guy who just bulls forward and says, okay, I'm just going to go do this. I just call him up and say, hey, I got, here's some of my stuff. You want to advertise or, put it in, or I don't know. I'm oversimple sometimes.
So I actually went into a lot of the little studios or whatever and asked them, and they're very particular with who they put in. Actually, they're very, very particular, and so I think I would need to grow as an artist a lot before I could ever even get into one of those art galleries. Maybe in like a smaller town I could or something right now, but like with growing my portfolio, I need more pieces. I want to like broaden like what I do. Right now it's just mostly like wildlife. Yeah. And I want to start getting into more Western and equine as well, because there's a big market on the equine side of the world.
Yeah, there is.
So that's like kind of my goal right now, and if I can achieve that, and get my art, just like increase my I guess my talent, really, like just like get better in what I do. I feel like eventually that could be a possibility, but it'll take a lot of work. And I think a lot of it too is creating a name for myself, which is very hard because I am a horrible marketer. That's like one of the hardest things for me. Is marketing.
I would disagree with that. You post when you even your hunts, the hunts that because we want to get into your pronghorn hunt. Your antelope hunt, because I followed you through all of those days and long nights and stalks and up and down and you did a great job of just catching my attention to keep me wanting to see when you're going to shoot your damn pronghorn. and it wasn't easy, and that's what I liked about it. It wasn't easy. It was like the next episode of Lydia Smith's pronghorn, right? The next day I was thinking, okay, she's going to post 5 or 6 things. I want to see if she shot her pronghorn.
It took me until the freaking last day of the season, but I got it done.
But you did get it done. Patience, yeah, patience. No, but so
lots of it.
Before we get on too far on down the hunting and the antelope road, how do you get? I got a couple more art questions. One is, how do you get RMEF to auction off one of your portraits or your drawings?
So when I got into hunting, I met Rocky Jacobson.
Okay.
And so he helped me a lot with learning how to do elk calling. And he knew a lot of people at the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Of course, yeah.
So he helped me kind of get it on that side. And I met like people personally who were like, oh, your art's like really cool. Like, would you be willing to like let us auction off a piece? And I'm like, yeah, like I'm not making a lot right now. Is there any way we could do like half and half, whatever it goes for? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so that's kind of what I've been doing.
Question. I didn't know if you had to donate that piece or if you actually got paid, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and so I think the first one I ever did, I just donated. And then after that, we did 50-50. And I think I went to, like 4 or 5 different banquets over the span of a few years. And there was multiple banquets that I'd go to more than like one time. Like they'd have me come the next year and the next year, which was really, really cool. And I've met some great people doing that. So
that's a perfect way to network right there, right?
yeah, it is for sure. So it's almost getting a little hard now though, because I don't have as much time as I used to.
Well, and COVID
so
doesn't help.
doing originals is quite a task when I'm just going to auction it off. So
right. Well, that COVID-19 is not helping either. So
not at all.
It's not helping anything. So.
Right. So do you have any more questions on that, Kent? Any of this art stuff?
Nope. I think I got both of those answers, so I can move on.
Yeah. So no, I'm not trying to push it. I just
Nope.
if you start talking about hunting, you talked about the Rocky Mountain elk call. Rocky, his name, right? Mm-hmm. And how you met him, and so the calling world. We'll just go right into that because on your website also it mentions that you've competed in calling elk.
Yeah, so yeah, when I got started in hunting, I obviously wanted to like learn and grow. And so one year I actually had my mom drive me to Utah and drop me off at the Hunt Expo while I wandered around and she went shopping with my brother. Kind of funny. And I went to a hunting expo, and that's where I met Rocky. I had no idea who he was. I just know I loved elk and I loved calling. And like, I'd never used a call. I liked mimicking them with my voice, but that was about it. So I was really interested in learning. So I went to the Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls booth. And I started talking with some of the people there, and Rocky eventually showed up and started talking to me, and he's like, hey, I want to talk with you, whatever. And I'm like, okay, he's like, come back the next day. We'll do more calling and whatever. And then I want to discuss something with you. I'm like, all right. And so next day I show back up, and he's like, hey, I'm going to give you these calls. And in a month, you're going to go and compete at the Worlds calling contest. I'm like, haha, you're really funny. Like, yeah, really, like that's not gonna happen. And he's like, no, like he's like, you'll do it. Like, just call, like just practice and we'll go to that elk calling competition next month. I'm like, yeah, all right, I was like, I'll just show up for moral support. Like, I don't think I'll call. And so a month later at the Worlds, I showed up, and I showed up late, and I thought I couldn't even get in. So I was like, oh, well, like I wasn't too worried about it. And then all of a sudden, like the guy at the stand or whatever calls my name and says I need to register. And I'm like, oh, I guess I am calling. And so it was, at first I had no nerves. I was super like chill. I was like, all good. But as soon as they called my name and said I was calling, I was like, oh man. I got pretty stage frightened up there. But I actually ended up winning the women's. I placed first, and it was super, super cool. I had tons of support. It was really, really fun. So
that's awesome.
And I ended up competing the next few years, and as well as the one in Idaho at the Idaho Bow Hunter Jamboree. So I competed at the Worlds, and then that one, and I think the one in Sandy at the ISC. So I've done a lot of the elk calling competitions. They've been super fun.
Right. So yeah, we've toyed with jumping in one, but we've been calling elk for 25, 30 years or more. But we've sort of focused on what the elk are saying as opposed to sounding good to a human ear, if you know what I mean. We just but doing that is an amazing feat to just jump in and 6 months later you're winning competitions.
It was really fun. Yeah.
Did Rocky help you at all? Did he
So he gave me some calls. Like, we live like very far away from each other, so like he never like came over and helped. But I'd send him videos of me calling, and he would basically review them and say like what I could do better, and that helps me a lot. So
cool.
Yeah. And it took a long time for me to learn how to lip ball. I actually learned it like 2 days before the competition. Which is that raspy sound.
Right. So how do you
perfect?
Yeah. How do you do it?
So it's kind of hard to explain, but you basically, like, I've never blown into a trumpet, but I think everyone that I've talked to says it's like blowing into a trumpet. You like press your lips up against the mouthpiece, and
they have to, Your lips have to vibrate together, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And so it's really hard to explain, but and it takes a lot of like learning. Like you have to teach your mouth basically to move in certain ways, and but now I do most of my elk calling just with my voice. I just feel like I get way more variation in volume versus a diaphragm.
Really?
But the bugling is, I could not do that with my voice.
Well,
So,
all right, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you elk call with your voice for us?
so I don't think it'll sound really good.
Even with a
over the
cold.
phone.
Even with a cold. You don't
I don't know
have
if I can.
You don't have to, but you know, I'd love to hear it one day.
I don't know if I can because of the cold, especially. I could barely even talk high at all yesterday. I was like cracking and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, because you got to get up there.
I have plenty of videos though that I could like send you. But it's super fun. I love talking with elk. It just gets me super excited. So, I could try, but I mean,
hey,
I don't want to do it and it sound horrible.
It's your call.
Okay,
Do you have it? Do you have it on any of your pages?
I actually posted one on my story today on Instagram.
Of you calling with your mouth.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's actually
All right.
on my story right now, and so the one that you hear, that's the closest. That's me.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Well, not only that, but you got to remember, see, we have edit capability. So if you hate it, I don't have to put it in.
Yeah, that's right.
that's true. That's true.
Well, you had a cold
Well,
yesterday too.
What?
I said you had a cold yesterday too, so you might as well try
Well,
it.
it was a video from a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
I was talking to a bunch of elk. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you'll hear elk calling back at me. It's really, really fun.
that's awesome.
Yeah, let's see. I'll try. I'll try for you guys. All right. I don't know. How
You
that
wait a
sounds.
minute. You that's your own voice.
Yeah.
That is crazy
aware.
good.
I can even do that.
That's crazy good.
Yeah.
I
My
am.
throat is happy with me.
How in the heck do you do that?
Well, I think it helps, like when you're a woman and have a higher note,
Okay.
But I think it helps when you have a higher pitched voice.
But I can't even imagine what I should be doing with my voice, tongue,
Exactly.
lips, mouth, anything to make that sound.
Yeah, and you get the drop off right and everything. It's crazy.
A little raspiness.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, see?
It takes a little bit to learn it, but it's super fun. I love talking with the cows, especially.
All right, I got to learn how to do that. The next when the conventions open back up and you're at one and we're at one, you're gonna have to tell me how you do
You
that.
bet.
I got.
It'll sound a lot better in person too. I promise.
I'm sure it will. I get it, but I'm just blown away. That's very cool.
It's fun, yeah.
So you use that when you're obviously use it when you're elk hunting. You did this year. You want to go into your hunts this year? Would love to hear about your hunts this year.
Yeah, no, I used it all the time this year, especially since I went on so many other people's hunts this year. That's constantly what I would do, is just cow call. And I called in multiple bulls and cows for my friends that were hunting, which has been super cool. I still bugle, just not a ton. I feel like a lot of the times I get more action by cow calling.
Yeah.
That's important, right?
Yeah. Have you done any? Well, you've been at it for 4 or 5 years now. Have you done any like Paul Medell and the elk nut and learning what the elk are saying when they're talking certain ways? Have you done any of that study?
So I haven't looked at anyone's research. I've done a lot of it on my own, kind of watching them and seeing what they do.
Uh-huh.
And so I've learned a ton, especially with the cows, just how they say things and what it means. And I know a lot of people always say that cow call that cows do, that's very long and kind of whiny, They're like, oh, that's an estrus call. And I'm like, I have actually had more calls or more cows talk to me with that sound versus a cow saying that to a bull.
I agree.
From what I've seen, they do that when they are wanting to know where other cows are, and they're getting kind of yappy. I don't know, like every time, like I'll be over, hiding as the hunters are in front of me and I'm cow calling, and I'll have a cow constantly do that to me. Like she wants me to go over there with her herd or whatever.
Yeah, she's telling you to come there is what she's doing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And she's doing it with some force, too. She's not just...
Yeah, because she doesn't want to come to me. She wants me to come to her.
Yeah.
And then lots of calves will do that, too, I've noticed. And I actually had a calf this season do that to me, and she kept freaking going, like doing like the really high up and down, and just came running into me as I was like talking back to her, which is so fun. Like, it's really, really cool, like just kind of learning what different things mean. And I've had a lot of cows actually do that estrus buzz that people call. That's what they call it. Lots of cows I've had talk to me with that very like raspy.
Yeah, it's like a monkey.
Kind of aggressive.
We call it the monkey call. The monkey call, and we've learned that it's really not an estrus call. It's a really forceful. You get your butt over here right now.
Yeah. It is.
Call.
It really is, and it's really cool, and that's what I've experienced.
Because we've got them on film and on video on trail cams and everything, doing that in June, July. It's really a an urgent get over here now call, or gather we're out of here kind of call, as opposed to a bark.
Kind of high emotion.
Yeah, so the whole they need to change that name from estrus call to
I agree.
to an urgent.
Because it really isn't.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Right.
And in competition, that's what it is. So like, it's kind of you kind of just got to go along with the rules or whatever. But in real life, I don't think that's the case at all. And I've heard like tons of bulls too mew instead of bugle.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We had it this year.
Yeah, we did.
Tons of times. And they do that a lot, I feel, when they're looking for their cows or a cow, and trying to be a little quiet about it. But I've had bulls do that a lot. Like mew at me.
Yeah,
They're like, they're trotting around and they're mewing, I'm like, well, that's kind of weird, but
exactly. Yeah, and that's what they use all the same calls that the cows do. And how many times have you heard it? How many times have you heard a cow bugle?
I've heard cows bugle.
Yeah. See, they all have the similar voice, right? So and they all use it just different ways. We've got to
definitely sounds funny.
Yeah. Over the many years, we've heard many cows bugle. We've got them on trail cam bugling, and it's just it's cool to see, and it's just part of their language and what they're trying to do.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very cool.
I love it. I love learning elk language. It's just like another reason why they're such a cool animal.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that you're learning it the non, I guess, traditional, what everybody says they say way. You're out in the field, you're hearing stuff, and it's too easy.
I trust the elk, not the people.
Right, there you go.
The elk talk, I know, like, if they say something and it's not what other people are saying, I'm going to trust the elk and be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that means that, because that's what I'm seeing.
You're right.
So.
Yeah, that's good.
But.
Yeah, fantastic. So let's hear about your elk hunt this year. You had, you're in Idaho. You had the Idaho archery tag, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And tell us, what season dates did you have? How much did you hunt? And, because you ended up with a very nice bull this year.
I got super, super fortunate on that bull, and I shot him way earlier than I thought I was gonna shoot an elk. Which was really good because I helped everyone else, the rest of the season. But
right,
yeah, it was like pretty hot and awful. I mean, the first week. So I was hearing bugles here and there, nothing too crazy, and I was just hiking around every day. And I had the Diamond Creek tag, actually, the limited, or not the limited, but the capped, the cap tag.
Got a quote on it, yeah.
Yeah, and so
now are those
I hunted that last year too.
Are those over the counter or those draw tags?
They're over the counter.
Okay,
so
and you
just have to hop on it as soon as they go for sale.
Right, because they'll cap out, right? And how many? Do you know how many they give away?
So, go ahead, man. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask how many. What do they cap it at?
I want to say it's like 1,300 or something.
Okay.
I'd have to check. Like, don't like.
No.
It might be different, but
I'm
I'd
just
say like in
curious if
the
you know.
1,000 range. Yeah.
Okay. And Kent, you were going to say something?
So-
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
It's like December 31st or something, right? You have to buy those. Are those early or something like that?
That's for non-resident. So
Oh, okay. That's
for resident, it goes for sale June or July 10th. So quite a bit later in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that one is tough.
So yeah, you gotta.
It crashes the server every year because everybody tries to get in and get it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So you definitely have to hop on it like the minute it goes on online for sale or whatever. But so yeah, I just was doing my thing, hiking around and trying to find elk. And when that really big storm rolled through.
Yeah, that snowstorm that was that was parked right in the middle of 80 to 90 degree weather the day before, and 4 days later, 80 to 90 degree weather again.
Yeah, we were bringing your bull out when that storm was starting to hit, Brandon.
Yeah, exactly. So what day did you shoot yours?
So I shot him the day after that big storm rolled in.
Okay, all right. It cooled off for you quite a bit.
Yeah, so I was camped, and it was kind of sketchy. I'd hiked back down to my camp because it was getting stormy, and I'm like, yeah, I better head home or back down to the tent. And there was lightning and thunder, and I had lightning strikes everywhere. Like, there was one that was right across the field from where I stayed in. I was like, wow, like, pretty insane. The rain was pouring. It was a pretty crazy night. I heard multiple trees fall.
Ooh.
I was just praying nothing would fall on me,
Yeah.
Then I got up that next morning. We had snow, which is good. It definitely helps when elk hunting. And so the elk were definitely fired up that morning. I had 3 bulls that I was like basically getting into and trying to make plays on, but nothing wanted to commit. They were all being super shy and wouldn't come, they wouldn't come any further than like 60 yards. And sorry.
No problem.
Eventually, by probably about 9:30, they all started shutting up and the thermal started changing. And so I hiked up a little higher and then sat down and tried to get dried off. I was completely soaked, drenched. I was drenched. Literally, like I jumped into a lake.
Really?
I had my outside pants on, and then I had thermals. I took my pants off and wrung them out, and just tons of water poured.
Oh.
And then took my boots off and my socks off, and I sat down and I just started chilling. So I was sitting there trying to get dry, and the sun was kind of shining on me, and I had taken my release off. I was like, well, I should probably put that back on. And I ranged everything just in case. You never know what's gonna come in. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear a bugle like up behind me, and I was like, well, I mean, he's pretty close, but I think he's gonna win me, so I didn't really care. I didn't do anything. I just kept sitting there, and all of a sudden, like probably 5 minutes later, he bugles again, almost right directly across from me to my right. I'm like, oh crap, he's coming right down this ridge. He's probably gonna come like right below me. And so I like stand up, and I was actually sitting on some rain pants that I had in my backpack, and I slowly slipped those on. And then I squatted back down to put my boots on, and then here he comes. Saw his rack walking right to my right. And I grabbed my bow, and I'm watching him, and he's walking down that finger and kind of comes right below me, just like what I thought he was going to do. And he stops and looks directly away from me. And so I grab my bow and I stand up and I draw back, and he turns around and starts going back up that ridge, but a little more like toward me. And thank goodness I'd already ranged. Like, he was right by this tree that I ranged to 40. And as soon as I saw his vitals, I called at him, and he just stopped and stared right at me. And I just put my pin right on his lungs, and whoop,
wow,
he went running. So, and it was pretty crazy. I didn't even have my boots on. Like, I just stood up.
Well, you didn't have your pants on either to start with.
Yeah, no, I was basically didn't have nothing on, and I was just sitting there soaked, and I was just like, wow, did that just happen? I was like, I could not believe it. It's like you hear stories of, like, elk walking into people and they're sitting down, but Never thought it would happen to me.
Trust me, you got a lot of years of that coming. It happens to us every damn year. Sitting around eating lunch, just toot on a call once in a while, BSing, and the next thing you know, there's elk. Oh crap!
I know. It was so funny, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like sitting there, like, what in the world? And I never even really got a good look at his rack. I knew he was a 6-point. That's what I was aiming for.
Yeah.
I could tell his back end wasn't very good, but I was like, I don't even care. Like, I just want to fill my tag. And
yeah.
And I shot him, and I let him run, and he ran, and then I didn't hear him, and I just sat there, and I started doing my Instagram thing. I was like, oh, I just shot a bull, you know, like, and I start walking and to where I hit him at. I'm looking for my arrow. I can't find my arrow. That took me a minute to find his tracks. I wasn't finding any blood. You know, I was like, great, you know, all those awful, you know, things that go into your head. And
it is an emotional roller coaster.
Oh, every time. And I start walking and following his tracks. Thank goodness, like, it had rained, and so everything, basically where he stepped was turned up and, you know, dry. And so I was able to track him pretty well. And eventually I started finding a little bit of blood. I'm like, hey, good, you know, and keep tracking, and then I found a lot of blood. I'm like, hey, that looks really good. And all of a sudden I hear something. I'm pretty sure it was a crash. I was pretty sure he just fell over. And I was like, okay. I sat there for a minute and just listened and kept on tracking. And then soon I freaking smelled him, you know, just that.
Oh, yeah.
That big old smell. And I'm like, hey, like, he has to be right here. And I'm looking, and I'm on a big steep face. And so I'm looking below me, and I'm not seeing anything. So I go a little bit further, and all of a sudden there he is, tucked up by a tree. And I was like, oh, my goodness. And as we're going down, and I noticed he wasn't completely dead yet. He was dying, but he just wasn't wanting to give up. And so he was kind of in a position where I couldn't really put another arrow into him. So I just kind of sat there and prayed a little. I was like, hey, you know, just have him turn to his side. And he did. Like, so I put one more arrow in him, and then he died like within seconds after that, and rolled down the hill, and then got wedged up against this huge tree, which sucked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call them, Kent, when they're on the ground dead? They're just big ignorant animals after that point.
Yeah, they're just big ignorant. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, they never die in a great spot. Well, except for yours this year, Brandon.
Yeah. We got a little lucky this year.
My bull last year died in a great spot, but yeah, this year, nuh-uh. So, he ended up dying belly up, wedged in between the side hill and this big old tree. And he was a big-bodied elk too. He was a big elk, and it took me over an hour to get him flipped over.
Oh, man.
I had to wedge his rack.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had to wedge his rack like near the tree and almost create some leverage. Eventually got him over, but man, I wasted all my energy just flipping him over.
Did you quarter him up, or did you debone him, or how'd you get him out? And how much help did you end up getting?
So, Sheldon, my boyfriend, was about 10 miles north. He was in 66, and so he was hunting elk over there. And I had sent him a text, like, right when I shot my bull, but he had no service at all. And so I think by around, like, 11 or noon, he got back to camp and got my text and called me. And I was like, hey, like, I got a bull down and everything. So I had already gotten my pictures and got started on him before he came up. But luckily, he did come and help pack out a ton of the meat, which was super nice. I took him out in quarters.
How long was the hike?
A long time. So we did 2 trips, and so I shot him at 10:30, and we didn't get back to camp till like 9 or 10.
Right.
Which is like pretty typical for packing out an elk. But,
yeah, especially with a couple of people. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like too far from camp. Thank goodness. I think it was like a little over a mile, maybe 2 miles, but it was like all steep and thick. So.
Oh yeah.
Not fun, but it wasn't horrible. So.
But it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a fantastic elk for your second elk. And
I was blown away when I came up and saw his thirds and his fronts. I was like, oh my gosh. I have a thing for thirds, and his thirds were super cool.
Yeah.
They're both 17.5, I think.
Holy cow, that's great for thirds.
Yeah, especially for an Idaho bull. So, no, I was beyond blessed. Like, that was an incredible moment. Like, I'm surprised it happened so quick. Like, I was thinking, like, last year I was going to shoot my elk toward the end of the season, but nope. Basically the first week, and I get my bull. So.
Yeah, that's great. Is that a 30-day hunt?
Yeah, it's from August 30th to September 30th.
Okay, good, yeah. Yeah, so you get all the good times in Idaho. If you get a tag,
yep.
you get to hunt in all the good times of elk hunting.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah. You got a little different challenge in Utah where we...
I know.
Yeah.
Isn't it that the rifle season is during the rut?
The limited entry rifle is...
Gotcha.
Yeah, the archery, even the archery limited entry is way too soon. That's what the tag I had this year. We had... It ended on September 11th. So,
yeah, that's still pretty early.
Yeah, but it started August 15th. But, when they're that early season, it's 100% spot and stock game. We've tried all sorts of different calling.
Right.
We did all sorts of different stuff this year to try to do something. We were in elk all the time, but and we had chances at many elk that were still in velvet and we got to see. I got to see a bunch of elk, raking the velvet off and just stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, but the season dates are really brutal on the archery guys in Utah.
Oh yeah.
In Utah.
No, that definitely sounds like it. So.
Yeah, it's just real early, and you don't get a lot of good chances unless they decide to rut early.
Not being stupid.
Yeah, so you end up really working your tail off just to get to the animals, right? But it is what it is, and and you guys sound like you had a fantastic elk hunt, and I suggest people go on your Instagram page and check it out because it's a great elk. It is a fantastic elk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So your elk hunt was right in the middle of your antelope hunt.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you were antelope hunting, and then you were elk hunting, and then you're antelope hunting again.
I know. So I was like, I'm going to hunt the first week of elk season this year because I think the past 2 years I, stuck with antelope hunting till like the beginning of second week of August, and then I would go, or September, and then I'd go into my elk hunt. But this year I was pretty set on hunting early, like as soon as the season started. So, yep, I left for the 30th of August on my elk hunt and killed my bull, and then went right back to my antelope hunt. So,
yeah. How many dates? What are the dates for the antelope hunt?
August 15th through September 15th.
Okay, so you do have 30 days there as well.
Yeah, and I was out almost every day. So.
Oh, that's brutal hot though out there in the desert.
It's awful. It sucks. Like, it's so fun, but it really sucks.
How many? I want to know how many stalks you put on antelope.
I'd say 30 plus in a season.
Yeah, and this year, and you probably only...
More than one a day.
Yeah, you probably only filmed half of them, I guess.
Yeah.
We might have filmed more of them, but you only posted half of them. I was watching all your stocks and stuff, and you had...
It's hard to, like... there's no way I could post every freaking single stock, especially because, like, a lot of the time I forget to film because I'm so, like...
Oh, yeah.
Into the hunt. Like, I don't want to, like, mess anything or miss anything, and that's why I suck at filming. Like, I want to get into it, and do videos, but, like, it's just hard when all I want to do is just focus on the animal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's self-filming. That solo stuff is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, Weston filming my hunt this year was fantastic because I've tried to film myself when I was out alone when Kent and Weston weren't there with me. I was doing it myself, and I'd try to film things, and I'm thinking, I don't have time to film. I want to shoot an elk. I don't care if Instagram people see that I shot one or not. I want to shoot one. Then I'll film.
Exactly. No, but yeah, like, antelope season is always a numbers game for me. Spot and stalking, like, it's just the more stalks you put in, the more opportunity that you're going to get. I mean, I missed a stud antelope at 60 yards, and it's because my sight was off, but I didn't realize it till I went home. It was, my arrows were shooting low, but huge buck. And then I was lucky enough to have another opportunity last day of the season. But I mean, they're just crazy animals. Their eyesight is insane. They're super sensitive and spooky. Like they just, and also like once they see they're running for 10 miles. Like they ain't stopping.
What was your average? What was your average distance that you stalked?
I'd say almost every time I can get within 100 yards to 80 yards.
But you started at how far out though?
Usually like 300 or 400 or more.
Okay, and then what did your stalk consist of? I mean, obviously, if you're hidden and you see them in there, they don't know you're there. So you start, you're walking, you're crawling, you're inching. I mean, what do you do to get that 60-yard shot?
So I'll usually spot them from the road, and I'll watch like where they go bed or what they do. And as soon as they bed down and I can't see, like I know where they are, but like they're not going to see me if I belly crawl.
Right.
Then I start belly crawling. So if the sage is tall enough, I can, just kind of crawl with my, like on my knees. So I'm not on my belly the whole time. But most of the terrain where I hunt is just flat.
Yeah.
So I think I got within 60 yards of multiple different bucks this year. I got 50 yards within one, and then I had a truck ruin that for me. Because like they're so sensitive. I mean, some guy revs his truck engine and they all stand up, what's that? And then here I am 50 yards from them, and they're like, nope.
We gone.
Yeah.
So they go running, but a lot of it is just inching, like slowly, like on my belly, like have my bow in my hand, put my bow up front, crawl, grab my bow, put it up front, crawl. I'm usually on the ground for hours at a time.
That's patience.
You need patience hunting antelope spot and stock. You definitely need knee pads, which I didn't have, so my knees and my elbows and stuff were all destroyed, and you got to look out for the cactus. It's pretty rough, but it's really fun and a really good way for like to get into the hunting season. Like personally, I feel like it's just a really good way to start, because the nice thing about antelope is you can literally stalk them all day because they're not hard to find. You blow one stalk, you drive, like 5 or so miles, you find another group of antelope. You're like, hey, I'll stalk these guys. It's not like deer. Like deer, elk, how you have to glass and you have to like look through the pines. You're not really sure where they are. So that is the nice thing about antelope. It's like constant action. But they are very, very hard to get on. And
a huge numbers game. You nailed it. If you can do that, you just got to keep going. Find the way.
I think that's my biggest success in antelope hunting is I'm able to spend almost the entire season out there. Like my first big game animal by myself was my antelope. And so for the past 4 years now, I've taken my antelope solo as spot and stock. Except last year, I did have a friend with me when I killed my buck. Killed a buck that I actually previously hit. And ended up killing him 3 days later, which is really, really cool. So, but yeah, it's definitely numbers game. I spend my time blowing so many stalks before I get that perfect opportunity. So
yeah. So what happened on the one you shot? Go through that. You where did you first see him, and then how far did you stalk, and what was the shot like?
So that was an ambush style stock. I kind of was watching where they would like to go in the evenings. They'd go across the road and go into this alfalfa field. So I'd sit on the BLM in the sagebrush. And it was actually my first time doing it. And there was 2 nice bucks. So I was like, I would have shot either one of them. And I had range. I was like, hey, they're probably going to come within 40 or 50 yards of me. I'm going to have to be real careful. And sure enough, the first one was a little smaller, so I let him go. And then I drew back on the second one. And that first one saw me, so he ran. And then his buddy ran too. And I think I thought at the time that they ran about 10 yards, but I think they ran more because I shot low and I ended up hitting his leg. And so he was limping, and that's how I was able to identify him. But he actually ended up disappearing on me that next day. It was the evening, so I decided to come back the next morning, try to find him. I never found him. I spent all day, probably 7 hours, just driving around trying to find him, and never did. And so I went home the next day, and then my friend showed up, and we headed back out there. And we put on a few stalks on different antelope, and never had the opportunity. And then that evening, we got up on a big hill and glassed, and I found him. 3 days later, I found my buck that I hit, which was super that usually doesn't happen. And
yeah, that's cool.
I'm like, I gotta kill him. He has, I have to. And so, the next morning we get up and we're looking for him and we can't find him again. I'm like, gosh dang it, like super discouraged. And we start heading back to the truck and my friend's all of a sudden he's like, Buck. And I look over and all of a sudden you just see dust everywhere. Just like, I don't know what was happening. Like sage and dust was going everywhere. All of a sudden that buck is just like tumbling and falling over himself. We're like, what in the world? And he had broken his leg right in front of us. He had snapped that leg that I hit. Like since he was wounded, he didn't get upright or something and got it caught and it snapped literally in half in front of us.
Wow.
It was crazy. And so we're like, gosh, I gotta kill this thing now. And so we first, because he kept bending down, so at first we tried just to stalk him. We had an antelope decoy, but he wasn't having it. He just kept running. I'm like, okay, like this is stupid. Like, and I got up and started running. I started chasing an antelope with my bow. And full speed.
A 3-legged antelope, though.
It was, yes, but they're still dang fast. He was definitely hurting though, and I think I ran a good 200 yards just chasing this buck, and he just did not want to give up. But finally, he did, and it was an incredibly emotional experience. You could just tell he was kind of accepting the fact that I was trying to put him out of his misery, and he sat there at 30 yards and he looked at me and then turned away right before I shot him.
Holy cow.
It was incredible. Just a huge rush of emotions. I'm
so glad you got him, though.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. Absolutely so grateful that I was able to, get that buck and put him out of his misery. And but the night before, he was walking around pretty okay. You could tell he was limping, but his leg definitely wasn't snapped in half. We saw it plain as day in the spotter. You couldn't even see where I hit him. But literally, we're walking down the hill back to my truck, and all of a sudden he pops up right in front of us and breaks his leg and starts running.
Wow.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me. It was one of those hunts that was meant to happen, and
right.
everything was timed so perfectly, and it was just, it was one of those emotional hunts I've had. It was crazy, absolutely insane. So,
wow, and that story right there is, from the Instagram that I was watching, I would never guess that went on.
Yeah.
It was that's a fantastic detail to what you posted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great story.
It was pretty crazy, but I am very grateful it ended the way it did. He was able to, get put out.
Yeah, no doubt.
Of his misery, and
no doubt.
And he expired really, really quickly after I shot him, so it was good.
Oh, perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, a couple of good hunts. And then how many more hunts do you have this year? What do you have?
I have my mule deer hunt left, so I drew a tag this year, and I've never drawn a tag, so I'm pretty excited.
Rifle, archery, or rifle?
It's a rifle tag, and it starts the 5th and goes to the 30th or 31st.
Uh-huh.
So I'm pretty excited. There's a lot of good deer in that unit. I'm probably going to take my horse out, go camping, ride from ridge to ridge, hike my butt off, and just try to find a really nice buck. I don't really care how big he is as long as he's old and mature. I just want an old buck. So we'll see. Good. That'll be good. It'll be fun to follow that for sure. Yeah, and then maybe, depending on if I have time for it, I might try to throw in another late hunt, whether it's whitetail, maybe even axis if I can save up enough by then. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking I might do is later in the year, for November or December. So yeah, do you have a dream hunt? Do you have a bucket list hunt? I have a few. I would really, really love to hunt axis in Hawaii, free range. And then I'd love to hunt New Zealand tahr, free range. I think those two are my biggest dream hunts.
Well, that's a pretty good bucket list hunt, either one of those, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot more too, but those two are probably my number one. So. Well, but I've already got a 6-point bull. You've already got a great antelope. You'll get a big deer this year.
Too, right?
I'm really excited for this deer hunt. So we'll
nice.
see how it goes.
Very good.
Is antelope? That's not a controlled. Is that over the counter too?
So it's a draw tag, but it's unlimited. So you draw it no matter what.
Oh, okay. Well,
yep.
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah. It's early season, too. Good and hot where you're...
Yeah.
Do you...
You get pretty sweaty.
Right. So now you've been in the hunting industry, and you've been at Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation things and all the shows, and you know your art is getting known. Who has, besides Rocky, who else has helped you, and who are your mentors?
So he was probably my biggest one when it came to the elk side of things. But other than that, a lot of my stuff has been kind of learning on my own. Like, people who have taught me lots of things, I'd probably say most of them were from Rocky. And I did have another friend, John Makeover, he was helping me with a lot as well. But for the most part, a lot of it has been learning on my own through trial and error, and then research and just trying to become a better hunter each year. So
yeah.
But I mean, there's tons of people who definitely like give tips and help along the way. There always is.
Yeah.
But
that's good. What do you so far? What do you want people to know most about you right now?
Well, I just want people to know, I guess, that, I have this huge passion and I just want to share it with people. And I guess, I really want to, inspire others to, follow their passion as well. And just show them that they can do things, whether they have, that help or not, whether they have the money or not. If they're passionate enough about something, you can do it. And that's kind of, what I'm trying to... let's see how do I put that. That's what I'm trying to get out there, right. I guess, through what I do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a testament to you as a person that you've done most of these things, from your extreme Mustang in your horse to your art. You're pretty much self-taught. Even your hunting, you've got some people helping you a little bit along the way. But 4 and 5 years in, doing a do-it-yourself elk hunt, archery, is quite a feat. It's quite a feat.
It's super fun.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people can learn. Doesn't matter what, male, female, whatever. You can learn from a lot of this stuff. And so,
yeah, thank you.
Seeing what you've done, I mean, that when Kent and I talked, when we try to get people on the podcast, we try to find folks that are doing something that everybody, can learn from. Two, that, you're passionate about it, and you clearly are based on your stories and the things that I was watching. Not just your hunting, but everything else we started looking at, and you're the three things that you're touching so far seem to be doing very well.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Do you still have your interest in the American Indian stuff?
Yes, I still do. Actually, I've had this bracelet on my wrist for the last 4 or 5 years that I got from Mountain Rendezvous that Native American made for me, and I haven't taken it off since. And I'm still very inspired by that.
Very cool.
That old-fashioned lifestyle. So they're definitely still around in my head.
Very good. Well, besides, I want everybody to make sure that they go to lydiasmithart.com, check out her art. How does somebody get a hold of you if they want some art done by you?
So you can definitely get a hold of me by my website. It has my email and everything on there, and through Instagram. I respond to messages when I have the time. So those two are probably the best ways to get a hold of me. Okay.
And what do you do when do you have you price things by piece? Say someone wants something, they'll give you, say, hey, here's something that I'd like to have you do, size and what the media is, and and then you go from there, right?
Yeah. So I have kind of a commission pamphlet thing that is priced for certain things. So with my fine art, I go by the square foot, and then with digital artwork or tattoo designs and whatever, I go by the hour, and I charge $45 an hour for all of that. So
all right, good. What else do you want people to know, or what do you want to promote, or anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to get out there?
I think we've covered just about everything, and just like what I said earlier, I just want people to know to follow your passion, and get out there for sure. Like, definitely don't freaking wait around, because you're never going to get back that day you waste,
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. So you just don't sit around, don't waste time, because you'll never get it back. So,
yeah. Well, we're looking forward to seeing your deer hunt. I'm certainly going to follow that as well, and like to see new hunters out there learning and making it happen. And that's you're definitely doing that. So, very much appreciate your time on the podcast here.
Well, thank you.
And we'll look forward to hopefully with COVID and everything, all these expos and everything. We're jumping into expo season here around late November. December,
crazy.
So maybe, just maybe, there'll be some that open up first of the year that we can actually.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
I sure hope so. I love the expos. So
Yeah, good. All right, Lydia, thank you so much.
thank you guys.
You
it was
have
great
a great
talking.
day. You too.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye.